Looks horrible in here.
Oh, gross.
Oh, man. Oh, hey.
Oh, hi.
Is,
Hi, guys.
Is Paul here?
He's not here this week. I'm not sure where he's
Oh,
at
how
right
you
now.
doing? Prince of Darkness.
Satan himself.
Oh, yeah, thanks. I'm Joe. Just call me JC.
Hey.
I prefer not to. Got a little history with those two letters.
Right.
I'll stay away from that.
I
I can just talk to you if
Okay.
you don't mind. I got some questions.
It is a little weird. What?
Weird. There's nothing weird about this. Just
Right.
two guys talking.
Okay.
Negotiating.
Friendly conversation.
I guess.
Hashtag everyday life.
Right. Oh.
You know what I'm saying? Well, we were talking with Paul. He was in my lair, hell, and I'll try to get him to stop growing because I really hate when you guys do that. And he just is not budging, being real stubborn,
Right.
being a real stubborn Sally, So I was thinking, well, why don't we just do a little give and take? Why don't you guys just stop having people volunteer? Okay, I'll give you the growth. I'll give you the growth. Very generous offer.
Okay.
Very generous, me being the generous guy that I am.
Very.
And you guys just get people to stop volunteering, because I hate that.
Well,
I can't stand it.
I kind of see where we're going here, but let me ask you this question: How can you grow if we don't have volunteers?
It's not my problem.
Right. So I'm guessing I can't do that.
Why? But I can't stand it when people volunteer, okay? You
Right.
got to give me something here. You got to throw me a bone.
Hmm.
I am the devil. What about if you just get one or two people to volunteer, okay? We'll go there and get them to do about 80% of everything.
See, that's where I'm going to have to...
That way you have volunteers.
You can't do that, because here's the thing. That's too much work for those one or two people. They'll run away too. It'll defeat my purpose. It'll defeat the purpose of Church 180, because we want to draw people closer to God, but also closer to each other. And volunteering is a great way to do it, because you can learn about God while you're working with other people. It's a fantastic opportunity, both ways of it. So I see what you're saying, and this is a little bit uncomfortable, but probably you guys should be the ones uncomfortable in God's house and all. But
Very.
gotta have the volunteers. Sorry.
I got this.
Let's do it, boss.
How about if I give you some ice cream?
Neapolitan is delicious.
Yeah?
See, I'm not a big ice cream fan. I'm sorry. Sorry.
Who doesn't like ice cream?
I don't know.
So...
But we're getting ready to have a service here shortly if you guys want to stick around. So
No! Whoa, look at the time. Oh, I have...
right up
You
here.
got important meeting.
I gotta be in San Francisco.
Let's go.
So we gotta get out of here. Sorry about that. We'll talk to you later.
All right. Oh, wow. Yeah, that was a little odd, huh? Glad I got it on tape, though. Nobody'd ever believe me. His uncanny resemblance to somebody I know. Well, good morning. We're going to, as you probably have guessed, talk about the fact that Satan hates the volunteer program here at Church 180. He hates it. Last week we talked about the plan to grow. He hates that as well. And so basically, two things. First is, I'm really glad I don't like ice cream that much, because that would have been really awkward. And secondly, is that I want to tell you guys about why volunteering is important and why it really, really, really frustrates the devil. And he really does truly hate Church 180 when we have a good volunteer program. So I'm very excited about this. Church 180 is a great place to talk about volunteers. We have a lot of fantastic volunteers already, and we have plenty of room for more volunteers. So don't feel like this talk won't be for you. If you're not volunteering, I'm not counting you out. If you are volunteering, keep going, because all of us can benefit from this, and it's definitely going to be a great opportunity. Let's start with some prayer. Heavenly Father, thank you for this morning. Thank you for the volunteers that you provided at Church 180. Thank you for the opportunities you've provided for more volunteers to come. And Lord, I just pray that you would bless each one of us today, that we would hear your word, that we would understand what it is you want us to do and how you want us to plug in, Lord God. I just ask this in your name. Amen. So why does Satan hate Church 180? Because of our great volunteer program. That basically is what we're going to cover today. And I have three reasons why. And so you can kind of count along with me, and then you'll know when we're almost done. But Satan Hates Church 180's volunteer program primarily because volunteers bring joy and they bring happiness. Okay, not just to the people that they're volunteering for, but it brings joy and happiness to themselves. It brings joy and happiness to others, but also to yourself. In preparing for this teaching this morning, I found that there actually is a study that people tested this, okay? And in this study, they did it a little differently than most studies do. A lot of studies say, okay, we're going to go talk to 100 volunteers that do this on a regular basis and see how their life is and what's going on in there. And then we're going to talk to 100 people over here who don't volunteer, and then we're going to compare the difference. A couple of problems with those kinds of studies. One, these people over here who are volunteering, they're used to it. They probably have the resources to do so with, and all this other stuff's going on in their life that makes it possible. When over here on this other 100, who knows? Maybe they don't volunteer because they don't have the time. It could be a legitimate reason, not just that they're grumpy people who don't want to help others. Okay, so there's these two spectrums on this survey, and they don't really accurately reflect. So what they did was, in this particular survey, is they took 200 people or 300 people, I forget how many people were in it, but they took an even number of people and divided them in half. Half of them they forced into volunteer work. That sounds like fun, right? And the other half, they didn't do anything. And then they measured various criteria and statistics with them. Okay? So the people they found, actually, the people that they had forced into this volunteer work, actually showed that they had less problems with depression. They had less problems with anxiety. They had an overall happier demeanor and lifestyle. They had joy in their lives, more so than the findings of the same group type of people that didn't volunteer. So it stands to reason that if the only differing factor between the two when they did this study was the volunteer or the non-volunteer portion, that the volunteering is what's helped bring these people out. Right? Helped them to gain a little bit of satisfaction in life, gain that happiness and joy, keep them out of the depression, the anxiety, all that other fun stuff that so readily plagues our society these days. So the statement that volunteers bring joy and happiness is, I think, a very true statement. You also notice we have this hashtag volunteer at C180. That's in case you want to decide you want to volunteer right in the middle and you have to tweet it right now. Go ahead. We'd love to see it. So, but anyway, getting back to this, just those two reasons alone tell me that that's one thing that Satan would absolutely hate for his people to have, or for God's people to have. He would absolutely hate for us to be happy. He'd hate for us to be joyful, and he definitely would hate for us to help other people become happy and joyful, right? I mean, he would be all completely against this. So just those two things alone, if you hear nothing else on that, think about that. If you have a unhappy, unjoyful life, and you're really struggling on to figure out how to fix that, try volunteering. Maybe that'll help it. Okay? But ultimately, Satan gets his victories when we are in that mood, when we're selfish, when we're only looking out for us. That's when he gets his victory. Think about it with me here, okay? I thought about this a while ago, several years back, and I was thinking about sin. I was thinking about all the things that the world says, the rules that Christians live by, right? The things that you can't do. Okay, you can't kill people. You can't steal. You can't take things, that aren't yours. You're not supposed to lie. All these, these really bad things that, let's be honest, you shouldn't do anyway. But Christians get this bad rap for having these sins. Every one of those sins that I just mentioned, and I can't think of any I've tried. I cannot think of any other sin that isn't rooted in pure selfishness. It's all about what's this going to bring back to me in those situations, right? So typically people don't go out and steal from somebody because it's going to benefit the person they stole from. They steal from the person to benefit themselves. They don't go out and tell people lies because it's going to benefit them. And even if you can convince yourself that it's benefiting that person, it's really not, okay? So I'm going to leave that one alone. But if you go up there and you tell people something that's not true, you're doing it primarily to protect yourself, right? So this selfishness is in our nature. It's what we what we're built on, okay? We all have it. Every single person in this world who's ever breathed, with the exception of Jesus, has this initial sin nature of selfishness. Okay, we want to pull this back on us, and when we continue to live a life like that, Satan gets the victory. Volunteering is the epitome of selflessness. Okay, if you say, yep, I'm going to take my time, or I'm going to take my resources, and I'm going to give them to somebody else to benefit from, it's all about them. But just like a few minutes ago when we talked about in the offering, God is so great that he gives it back to us. He gives us this joy and happiness as well because we were able to help other people. Because we were able to step out and say, hey, you know what? I will give you this time of mine to help you so that you can be better, so that the church can be better, for this, whatever organization can be better. I'm volunteering, and I'm being selfless in this act. I'm reflecting God's nature, and he's so cool because he gives it back to us. Think about it. I mean, think about some selfish people that you might know. I've known a couple in my day, and they're not fun to be around, right? They really kind of drag the whole mood down of everybody around you. And to be honest, I mean, they're miserable, right? But a non-Christian study put on there that volunteers bring on happiness and joy, okay? So if you're not volunteering, one of the easiest things that you might be able to do to improve your outlook on life is to start volunteering, okay? When Satan gets people to think about themselves, he wins. That selfish attitude takes over. But when people decide to volunteer, the church starts to really benefit and see the changes. Things start to emerge that weren't there before. Recently, we've had a few volunteers that have stepped up and really have done some great things, and it's amazing what's happening right now. Behind the scenes, kind of, all this stuff's going on, and everybody's saying, hey, who can hold this job? Who can do this? Who can do that? I really don't have time to add one more job to my plate, but I really would like to make sure this gets done. And then you get a volunteer that comes in and says, hey, I love that. I want to do that. That's awesome, because you know what? Though somebody who's not gifted or talented in there could probably get the job done, somebody who really passionately loves it and desires it and wants to do it and is able to do it well will do it so much better. And then other people see that, and they say, you know what? I'm excited because they're excited, and I want to come be like that person, and I'll volunteer, and I'll do that. And this has started to happen. We've had people come in to Church180 and say, you know what, I want to be a part of what's going on. I want to help out. I can do this, and I want to help you get it done. And not only is their outlook on life positive, but the church's outlook on life is positive. Everything seems to flow better. People are put in a right place. They're doing things that they're naturally fitted to do. And it helps to really support the church, and this attitude really is reflected well in there. When people start to volunteer, they also notice that their frustration levels tend to go down with the church as a whole. It's kind of crazy, really, if you think about it. The volunteers at Church180 make this such a great place to work, and a lot of them are only here a few extra hours a week. From Sunday morning, if that. There's some prep time for some of the jobs. Some jobs don't require a lot of prep time. It just requires to get here a few minutes early. And it really just makes everything better because of it. Stress levels go down. People are excited. The energy level goes up and makes Church180 a great place to be. Now, there is some God part to that, okay? God is involved here. I'm not going to deny that. I'm not going to dismiss that. But on the human side, we are definitely seeing a huge shift in this path of volunteerism. It helps us get from point A, which is we got to somehow get all this done, to point B where, wow, we really got all this stuff done, and it was because of all of these people that helped us out. So thank you if you're a volunteer. Thank you for that. It really has. It's made so many lives changed. So many that you'll never even know. But it's so important. And really, truly, from the bottom of my heart, I appreciate each person who volunteers here at Church 180. Second reason Church 180 is hated by Satan is because of the simple fact that when we volunteer, absolutely everything. Next slide. There you go. Everything improves when people volunteer. Okay, so we've started to cover that a little bit, but that's so true. Everything gets better, right? If I've got, for example, one person who's doing 5 different tasks, and they all have to happen at the same time, there is absolutely no way that person can get all of those done at the best of their ability. It just doesn't work that way. But if somebody else would come on and say, you know what, I'll help you with this task, I'll help you with this task, I'll help you with this task, and everybody's doing one task, it gets better, right? Everything improves. There's a story that I have where I was in the hospital. I spent about 8 days in the hospital for a surgery I had to have with my Crohn's disease. Gosh, it's been a while now, probably 5-6 years ago. And it was really cool because the church that I went to, they had people that actually came up to see me in the hospital, okay? Now, this is just an experience I've had. There's other ways that volunteers have ministered to me and to other people, but what was really cool about that was the pastor came to the hospital to say hey, too, to check on me, make sure everything was good, and he and I are friends, and he came to visit and, did his pastor thing, which was great. But then we had people from our church who came as well, and they volunteered to come see me just because they cared about me. Who do you think made a bigger impact on me? The pastor that was supposed to do it because that's just part of the pastor's job? Or someone who took time out of their busy schedule to come up and do something just for me? It was the volunteers. They're the ones that I remember. They're the ones that I remember being impacted by. That volunteer role is so powerful. It's so much more powerful than any of the paid staff could do. It's so much more powerful. It has so much more of an impact on somebody's life when there's a new person coming in the door and 3 or 4 people come up to him and talk to him and show him around the building and say, hey, I'm so glad you're here. That means so much more than if all the pastors walk up to him and say, hi, I'm Pastor Joe, I'm Pastor Paul, I'm Pastor Mike. And, some of that's expected. It's when we go above and beyond and we can say, hey, we have a church that really, truly cares about you. We have a church that really, truly cares about every single person that walks in this door. That's when people start to notice. Volunteering makes everything better. Let's think about the cafe for a minute, okay? Cafe, can I be completely brutally honest here? That scares me, the cafe does. Because I am so bad in that kind of environment. I know. Coffee. I don't drink coffee. In fact, I've tried to make coffee a couple of times for Aislinn over the time that we've been married, and I'll tell you, it's never been good. Never once have I made a good cup of coffee. And now we have a Keurig, so it's a lot easier. Push the button. I don't have to think about it. But I don't drink it. I don't know much about it. I would love to be back there and help out, and I'm willing to stand back there and get the coffee and provide people and say, hey, how are you? Good to see you today. But one of those people that I was just talking about, those volunteers that have come in and made Church 180 so much better already, is Angie and Brian. They said, this is something that they can wrap their head around. This is something that's within their wheelhouse and that they have experience in. And I'll tell you what, in the last 3 weeks, it's gotten so much better because they love it. They want it. And April and James and Kristen and Sean and Angie and Randy Hoover and Simile, who have all stood back there and said, I want to work in this. I want to experience what it's like to volunteer and serve other people. Go ask them. See if they like it. I imagine they do. They keep coming back to do it. So I think it's good. But the point is, we all have a skill set. We all have a place where our niche is. And if we're not working in that niche, we're not going to be as happy. We're not going to be as successful. Other people are going to notice. But if we can all get in that niche, if we can all get into something that's my thing, that's what I do, then everybody is going to improve because of it. everything in the church, every system from the beginning to the end is going to improve because of it. Okay? One more quick illustration here for you. This is actually, I don't have a slide for this, Joey, so. Kim Buchanan, awesome at planning an event. So thank you, Kim, for all that you do for the church, because if you've come in here and it has looked like a beautiful buffet is set up and the room's decorated and just elaborately and everything's just perfect, you can pretty much be sure Kim Buchanan's had a hand in it, okay? If you come in here and there are just tables sitting around here all over a mess everywhere, you can probably guarantee I planned that event, okay? It's just something that she does great, and I so appreciate it. And I thought about this last night, and some of you have been on my Facebook, so you might know this story already, but last night we had the opportunity to go see Jim Gaffigan, a comic who Hazel and I just really appreciate and like. And he was in town, he was in Charlotte, and we bought the tickets back in April or June maybe, but it was a while ago. And then last night, the concert came around, and we were so excited. We were talking about the last couple weeks. Hey, Jim Gaffigan's going to be next Saturday night. We got to get this done so we can be in time for that. And all this other stuff's going on, and we get so excited. And before the event happens, now I'm in charge of planning this event. Okay, so keep that in mind while we're doing this. While that's all going on, my wife's getting ready. She puts on a beautiful dress. She's got her high heels on. She just looks stunning. And I'm like the luckiest guy in the world to be going out on a date with her. I have this whole romantic thing planned. We're going to sit there. We're going to have some fun. Maybe go get some coffee. I don't like coffee, but tea or something afterwards. She loves coffee. We're going to get it afterwards, and it's just going to be this great night where we can just celebrate each other. We can love each other. We can just, have a good time together. And I will say, since our kids have gotten older, we've had more opportunities with that, and Grandma's always a big help, and I do appreciate that. But it's nice to be able to just go out as a couple and do something fun. So she's getting all fixed up, ready to go, and I go up and I clean up a little bit, and we head out to the show. And I didn't print out the directions. I didn't really know where it was at. So, good old GPS on the phone, right? So we pull that up. I got this under control. That's a minor detail. We can get this. So we get out there, and just as I'm getting ready to pull on to exit 11A off of 77 North, which is on the right side of 77, the GPS thing all of a sudden, for some reason, switched it to exit B, which is now all the way over there. So I've got to go over 4 lanes of traffic in about 12 feet, and it's just not going to happen. So we're doing this whole backwards thing, going around every neighborhood in town trying to find this place. Finally get there, and we see a huge long line. Whole bunch of people standing out there with lawn chairs. And we don't have a lawn chair. So I'm thinking, well, maybe it's for a different event. Nope, sure enough. If you guys didn't know, the amphitheater is outdoors. I didn't know that. So when I picked our seats online, in fact, it showed me something that looked like it was an indoor, with seats and a stage and stuff. I had no idea it was outside. So we park our car, we see the rain clouds starting to come in, and I look at the guy parking directing the traffic, and I say, hey man, amphitheater this way? He says, yeah, you'll see the line of people. I'm like, is it indoors? He's like, absolutely not. So here's my wife. Beautiful, high heels, walking through this rocky parking lot as the rain's starting to come in. So then it rains a little bit. We're standing in line. We're not too wet, and life's good. We get our seats. Fortunately, I did actually get seats, so I wasn't sitting on the lawn with nothing there. But we get these seats. We sit down, and the rain clouds are just kind of looming overhead. And we say, hey, maybe we'll luck out. Maybe we should get some ponchos. Maybe, I don't know what we do here at this point. But sure enough, it just opened up. Lightning and wind and rain. And we were soaked, and I went and got some ponchos, had to fight through the people to get over to the poncho counter guy, and I bought some ponchos, and we put them on. And so there we sat for the next 45 minutes waiting for this rain delay to end in the middle of open sky. And I'm thinking to myself, wow, this really romantic night that I planned has gone downhill fast. So, but I will say she was a good sport, and we sat through it, and it did actually stop raining. It was a very fun night. But yeah, that's how I plan events. I have this great idea, but I sometimes have a hard time making that vision in my head come true. Kim Buchanan can do it almost effortlessly, it looks like. I know she puts a lot of effort into it. She works really hard, but it just seems like it's so natural for her to want to do that. So it's a natural fit then for Kim to say, hey, I can help with events. And she has, and it's been such a blessing. Everything has improved at Church 180 because Kim said I can help with events. Because the ushers take up the offering and the greeters meet people at the door. Because we have a cafe team that loves what they do. Because we have a Family 180 team over here. There's almost 20 volunteers on the Family 180 side. Isn't that amazing? Absolutely amazing. And you know what? They still have room for more. So don't think because there's 20 that you don't have room in the Family 180 side if you want to work there. Okay? So when people step up and people take the initiative and people say, hey, you know what? I'm going to help work in my wheelhouse, it gives them a sense of importance. But it also gives us a sense of importance, us as receivers of that. Not as a staff member or a pastor or anything, but us as people that are receiving those efforts. We are important. We understand that every single person that walks through that door is important. And when you have a volunteer that wants to tell them that, they know that they're important, and guess what? They want to come back. People don't want to go places that they aren't important. People don't want to go places where they can just blend in and go away. People want to go places where they're noticed and appreciated and cared for. And guess what? The only way Church 180 can do that is through the help of volunteers. It's too big of a job for one person to do. It takes many, many, many people. Now here's another thing that I want to kind of tell you about. And this is actually actually happened kind of a situation. I've been in churches before where we did have a struggle with volunteers, and people just didn't want to step up. People didn't want to help, and it got really frustrating. And guess what? I wasn't on staff there. I was just a volunteer myself at this place, and great place. I love the people. They're great people, but nobody really wanted to take ownership of anything. Nobody really wanted to step up. They all just had great ideas, and they all said, this is what should change, and this is what you should do, and this is what everybody should do over here, but I'm going to go on home, and you let me know when it's done. I ended up with 17 different job titles as a volunteer. Full-time job, family, 3 kids, and 17 church jobs. You know where I got to? I didn't want to go back to church. Ever. Really, a lot of the reason I stayed as long as I did at that particular place was because I really truly believed that something would fall apart and somebody wouldn't find Jesus because of it. It was a guilt complex that I put on myself. Guess what, folks? Jesus is going to be found. I can help the situation or I can hinder the situation, but he's big enough to work past me. But I didn't see it that way. I didn't understand it that way. I wanted help, but I couldn't find it, and people were perfectly fine with just letting me have it. In fact, when I'd ask for help, some of the excuses I got, okay, these are real excuses. Let me read them here. You're doing such a good job that I don't want to take that from you. Yep, I actually heard those words. I don't have time right now. Neither did I. It took a toll on my family. Like, I'm going to be completely honest here. It took a toll on my family. It frustrated my wife that I had spent so many hours working on church stuff. It's frustrated that to the point where it really got to be, hey, you know what? I got to really think about this. I got to decide, am I going to let this volunteer nightmare run me, or am I going to start controlling it and saying no? Am I going to go through a complete burnout phase and let all these other people just get by with it? or am I going to do something about it and regain control of what's going on in my own life? And you know what I did? I did that. I stopped doing a lot of those things. I found people that would help me. And you know what? What happens? If I stopped doing it, there were other people who weren't going to let that fall through. They were going to step up and do it. But I was foolish enough not to believe that or not to read into that when people were telling me that kind of stuff. And I tell you that not because I want to discourage you from volunteering, but I tell you that because that's one of the tactics that Satan uses to get us to not volunteer. He gets us so incredibly busy that we get frustrated and we don't want anything to do with the church anymore. That was a victory that Satan was having in my life. He was saying, you know what? You're just too busy. And now all these church people just make you do everything. And I was buying into it. I was letting it affect me. I was becoming that selfish person, that grumpy person that I just told you about, and I hated that. I didn't want that. Satan was winning that battle. And I'll tell you this, that at Church180, that is not okay. We will not let anyone get to that point of burnout. In fact, one of the things that we talk about in our staff meetings on Thursday night, we just talked about it this last Thursday, and I had another meeting with someone else, is that this volunteer team that we have here, we want to protect them. We want to make sure that there are enough people to go around that not any one person feels that level of burnout, and they all love coming back to Church180 on Sunday to help, to bring that joy and that happiness back to people. We don't want you to go through burnout. So you will not have 17 jobs at Church180. Okay, and one of the things that we talk about a lot of times, and I've really appreciated here, is when I came to Church180, I've shared that story with Paul, and Pastor Paul has been fantastic about saying, hey, Joe, do you have enough time? You're not taking on too much. Do you have what you need to be successful, and feel free to say no to jobs that you can't do? And I have. And I do, and I'm not at a burnout place. I'm in a good spot. I'm excited about Church180. I'm excited about where this is going. And if you've been in any of a meeting with me over the last probably 3-4 months, you have heard my mantra of let's get more volunteers, let's raise up more volunteers, let's empower the volunteers that we have, let's love and appreciate the volunteers that we have. Because I've been on the other side of it. I know what that's like, and I'll tell you, I'll give you my word right now, and this is going to be on tape, on the internet, everything. I will do my best to make sure you don't go through a burnout phase. Because there's nothing that Satan loves more than a burned out Christian. So, I want all of you to be able to bring joy and happiness to others. I want all of you to bring joy and happiness to yourself through your volunteer efforts. I want all of us to improve and see the benefits of that, and I don't want any of us to be burned out. Does that sound fair? All right. The third reason why Satan hates Church180 and our volunteer program here is because we actually do it out of obedience to God. Okay? When we volunteer, we actually are doing what God wants us to do as believers. We are actually following God's command by coming to church and opening a door for someone and being a greeter. We are actually following God's commands by giving them some coffee in the cafe. We are absolutely following God's commands by helping at the Family 180 side, or working in the sound booth, or standing up here on the worship team. Any of the volunteer areas, we are being obedient to God when we volunteer. And that's so important. Here's some verses that I found, and that talk specifically about volunteering. So as we take a few minutes and we unpack each of these verses one by one, we should, I'm kidding. I wouldn't do that to you. But I would encourage you to read these verses, especially if you're saying, hey, I don't believe any of this stuff we're talking about with a volunteer. It's biblical. We're supposed to volunteer. God expects his people to do things to help other people. It's just that simple. Let's look at a couple of these verses here. Galatians 6:10 tells us, therefore, whenever we have the opportunity, we should do good to everyone, especially those in the family of faith. We should be especially helpful, especially good things for those of us that are of like faith. But it also says, everyone. So we don't say, oh, if you're not a Christian, we're not going to be nice to you. We don't get that excuse. If you're not a Christian, we're not going to help volunteer. We're not going to do any of that stuff to help you. It says we should be good to everyone, but especially to the family of faith. So if the church has a need, we're supposed to meet it. If the church has a problem and we can fix it, we're supposed to fix it. Okay, now this letter was written to Christians. This is written to the church in Galatia. So this isn't saying that this is how you become a Christian. This is saying that when you are a Christian, this is what's expected of you. This is what God wants us to do. The next verse actually is from Jesus himself. It's in the book of Luke. And it says, give and you will receive. Your gift will return to you in full. Pressed down, shaken together to make room for more, running over and poured into your lap. Now, that's kind of an interesting verse right there. Okay, and I had to think about this a little bit. It happens to me sometimes. As I really have to digest something, I'm like, what does that mean? Why would he put that little bit in with the rest of the first part of that sentence? Pressed down, shaken together to make room for more. Well, I thought about it. If I take sand and I put sand in a bucket, right, I got a bucket full of sand. Pretty simple. If I want to make more room for that sand, I either got to get a bigger bucket, or you can wet it down and you can pack it down in there. And what's going to happen is it's going to create more room because the air goes away, right? It's going to pack down, and then if you shake it up, it really gets everything out of there, and you'll be amazed how much more you can fit in that bucket just by doing that. And that's what God's saying he's going to do for us. He's not just going to give it back to us at the measure that we gave it out. Because you can only have 100% of anything. So if I had this water bottle and I had 100%, I took half of it out and I filled it back up, I can only have 100%. But if there's a way that I can compress that and I can make it smaller, like that sand bucket, then I can fit more in it. And God wants to do that. This is Jesus' words. Give and you will receive. Your gift will return to you in full, pressed down, shaken together to make room for more, running over. So he's going to give you even more. He's going to bless us even more than what we were able to give, and poured into your lap. So now he's not only pressed it down and filled that sand bucket over, but he's poured it over into your lap too. That's how much Jesus wants to bless us when we give to other people, when we give of our time, when we give of our treasure, when we give of our talent. This is Jesus' words. So go on to the next part of this verse, please. And it says, the amount you give will determine the amount you get back. Now, sometimes people will talk about this verse, and they'll talk about it with money. And it works for money, too. It does. It fits in there. It's not out of context by any means. But this, I believe, really is talking about everything that we give to God. Our time. When we volunteer and say, you know what, God, I don't really have another hour and a half to do this. But I believe it's something that I need to do. It's something you've gifted me with. It's something that you've given me the ability to do, and there is a need that I can meet. Guess what? He's going to give that time back to you some way or another. Maybe he opens up opportunity in your schedule. Maybe your work schedule changes. Just like we talked about during the offering. Somebody gave of their tithe to the Lord, and they got a long overdue raise. And you know what's cool about that? Not the fact that he got more money. I mean, that's pretty cool too. But he got the feeling that he was now appreciated. And a lot of times that goes so much farther than your money goes. That feeling of appreciation. God can give all of us all of that. But we have to give first. So as we talk about this 12-week giving challenge, and I'm serious, this is a great deal. I've never been in a church where this deal was going on, but I believe that it works. I'm going to also challenge you, not for 12 weeks. Okay, this is 12 weeks giving, that's it, because you know what, at the end of 12 weeks, I can't give you time back. I just can't. But I'm going to challenge you this. If you're willing to say, hey, you know what, God, I'm going to let you have control of my finances. I'm going to let you take control of my spending. I'm going to give you what's yours. And I'm going to trust you for it for 12 weeks. Would you be able to throw a few hours in there as well? Would you be able to say, hey, you know what? I want to serve Church 180. I want to serve other people. I want to gain that happiness and joy back in my life and give it to other people. If you're willing to do that, now's a great time to jump on board and try it out. Our fall season's coming up. We have a need for a lot of positions to be filled. And I promise you, if you come to me and say, hey, you know what? This is an opportunity that I'd like to be a part of, I'll do my best to find a way for you to be a part of that. Okay? There's no lack of opportunity at Church 180. I promise you that. I know what people we need and who we have, and there's plenty of room. So I would say, hey, you know what? I can give an hour. Okay, what can I do in an hour that meets these skill sets? We'll find something. We'll help you do it. And if it doesn't bless you, then you know what? You can get out of it. I'm not going to force somebody to do something they don't want to do. That's doing exactly what I just told you I hated about doing in my own life a while ago, and felt like Satan had won the battle because I was doing things I didn't want to do. I wasn't good at doing. I wasn't, able to accomplish. And we don't want that for any of our people. We don't want anybody to come in here and say, I hate Church 180 because I have to do this. I'd rather you not work anywhere and come and learn and grow than to come in and do jobs that you hated. Now, if you miss anything that I've said today at all, don't miss this, okay? So please pay attention. Volunteering at Church 180 or anywhere else for that matter, giving a tithe to Church 180 or anywhere else does not make you a Christian. We talked a couple of weeks ago. We had a series that's online. If you haven't seen it yet, I would encourage you to go watch it on Church180.tv, listen to sermons tab, and it talks about the only way to God is through faith in his son Jesus. And that's true. I believe that wholeheartedly. So you can come in here and you can work 40 or 50 or 60 or 100 hours a week at Church 180, and you can give all of your money, and if you don't believe in Jesus, it's not going to do you any good eternally. The only way to the cross, the only way to salvation, the only way to heaven, like Mikey said earlier, Pastor Mikey here, was you have to believe in God's Son. That he came, he died, and he took the penalty for our sin, and when he raised from the dead, we have the ability to know Jesus now. And it's that simple. What we're talking about here is that if I truly love God and I truly want to live a life like God wants me to live, then I'm going to listen to what he has to say, and this is what he says. You need to volunteer. You need to have complete faith in me for your finances. You need to have your abilities and skill sets that I've given to you used in a way that's going to be a resource. So take it in baby steps. I'm not saying jump in and go lead a program. I'm saying, hey, you know what? Give it a shot. Maybe I could sign up for one Sunday a month to be a greeter. Maybe I could sign up for one Sunday a month to help serve snack in the Family 180 side. There are things that we can take baby steps into. And as you see, hey, you know what? My life is changing. My life is getting better. I'm feeling joy. I'm feeling happiness. God is truly making a difference in my life. You can move slowly into a better, bigger role. Okay? But I promise you, there's a couple of things that I want to make sure that you hear. First is that we're talking about once you've gotten that all taken care of on the salvation side, now this is what we do next, okay? This over here is not going to get you any closer to God or heaven. It will, however, make you grow into a stronger person. So here's our promise to you at Church 180. We do not want to burn you out, okay? So I promise if you get up here and you say, you know what, I want to volunteer, I'm going to make sure that everyone is paying attention, that the volunteer team leaders know what's going on, and that everybody's being cared for and loved on exactly the way they need to be, to the best of our ability. Okay, now keep in mind we are still humans, so we are going to make mistakes, but we're going to do our best to make sure nobody has too many jobs and that they're feeling burnout. We're going to give you what you can handle and allow you to help make everything else better for everyone. We're going to provide a way out for you. We understand that there are seasons in people's lives. We understand that sometimes, you just can't make it because of a work schedule. We understand that sometimes people lose their jobs and they get different jobs or something changes. And you know what? That commitment I made 6 months ago to say, yeah, I can come every single week and go to a meeting on this night isn't going to work anymore. And we understand that, and we're okay with that, and we're going to help you gracefully move into something different or out of a role until that season in your life changes and you're ready to come back. We're not going to force this on you. You're not signing up for a lifelong commitment. And third thing, we want to make sure that we are actually training and we're setting the proper level of expectation for each department. If I offered you guys a new job in your civilian world and, I was the owner of a company or something and I said, okay, I want to hire each of you, but I'm not going to train any of you, go do the job. It'd be kind of a daunting task, wouldn't it? Church does the same thing. I don't understand that. And not Church180 necessarily, but the church as a whole. Hey, you know what? I want you to go head up the children's team. Bye. That would scare me to death to have to head up the children's department. I wouldn't know what to do. I wouldn't even know where to start. But fortunately for you, Church180 says, we're going to train you. We're going to invest in you. We believe that you are the right people for the job. But we want to make sure you have all the expectations, you know what's coming at you from day one, and that you're prepared for it. Okay? That's going to be our promise to you. You're not going to get burned out. We're going to do our best to make sure you don't get burned out. Let's put it that way. Getting burned out is up to you. We're going to provide you a way out if you need it, and we're going to give you the training and tools that you need to be successful. That's a pretty fair deal, right? So in that case, I want to go ahead and put something up here to put some momentum behind it. And this is actually an invitation. Okay? Now, because the screen there's only one of them and you can't all take it home, I have them printed as well. But this is so everybody can see it. This says you're invited, volunteer training at Church180. Okay? It's going to be on August 28th at 7 p.m. That's a Friday night. It's going to be for a couple of hours, and then we're going to meet again on Saturday morning for a couple of hours, and it's right here at the church. Now, I've gone through this training, and Jim Ockenfels teaches it, and it is phenomenal. Okay? It's going to do a couple of things for you. This is a great place if you're saying, hey, I think I might want to try this volunteer thing out, but I'm not sure where to plug in. This is a great place to go because we're going to talk about your skill sets. We're going to talk about your passions. We're going to find out where it is that you plug in the best and that you're working in a ministry that's going to help you be successful, okay? If you are a great person that counts numbers fantastically, you really don't much care for social interaction at all, and you're here because it's a dark room and you can hear about God, then you might be a good fit for some sort of a accounting thing or something where you aren't interacting with people, but you might not know that there's an opportunity there, and so you've signed up to be a greeter. Well, if you signed up to be a greeter and you don't like to talk to people, you're going to hate life. You're going to hate Church180, and you're not going to come back, okay? However, if you hate numbers and you don't do well with those kinds of things, and you love talking to people and meeting new people and walking up to strangers is like what sets you off, and we got you counting in the back, you're going to be frustrated and you're going to hate it. You can probably count okay. Most people can. But you're going to hate it. And so this training is going to help you decide, this is what I'm good at, this is what I enjoy, this is what I want to do. And so we're inviting you to it. We're going to pay for all your materials. We're going to pay for your lunch on Saturday and your dinner on Friday, and we're going to provide childcare to you. All we need you to do is come and say, hey, you know what? This is something that I think I'd like to look into. And then at that point, you're going to, at the end of the day on Saturday, and midday, I would imagine it's going to be over, we're going to go through and help you find a place that you can plug in so you can feel appreciated, so you can feel valued, and then in turn, help other people find that joy and happiness when they come in the doors. So here's the deal. We have to buy the books, okay? This isn't just something we've made up. This is actually coming from a very large organization who knows what they're doing. And Jim Ockenfels has done a great job learning this material. He's been in on the ground floor of when it was just being rolled out, and he's taught it countless times. And he'll be a great resource for us here. But we still have to buy the books. So what I need you to do is later on this afternoon, go up on Church180.tv's website, click on the link that has this picture on it and the banner that rotates, and you can sign up. We need to know how many people are coming, how many kids are coming, how many adults are coming, so we can provide childcare and food as well, okay? So please do that. If you don't want to wait and you know right now you're going to sign up or you're already a volunteer, this is something that if you're already a volunteer, you still need to come to. Your ministry leader already has an invitation for you. So go get it from them, and they'll ask you to sign up on the form that they have. So if we can get a good head count, then we can prepare this and we can do it the right way. Okay? So this is my challenge to you. We're already doing the giving challenge. I've already told you what Church180 is going to do for you. We're going to try and be the best resource we can be for you. Now all we need for you to do is step up and do it. So if you're willing to come to this, please sign up. If you're willing to step out and say, you know what, I'm going to be obedient to God, I'm going to help other people, and I'm going to make everything better by helping out, then you need to be a volunteer. Okay? I will also say this, that when you're a volunteer, that's when you really get to be a part of the team. That's when you have a voice. That's when it goes from, hey, this person just complains and gripes and groans all the time about what we're doing, to, hey, you know what, let's put some weight behind that because that does make sense, and this person's engaged and they're plugged in. They're not just nitpicking. Volunteering gives you the voice. Volunteering gives us the ability to represent God and to actually push these ideas down the field. So that's my challenge for you. And so as the band comes today and they wrap up the service, think about that. Pray about it. Sign up. The sign up will be up on the website for a while, and we'll probably talk about it again next week. But it's not a huge commitment on your end as far as that goes, but it would be a tremendous amount of value added to not only your life but also the church. So Heavenly Father, thank you for this morning. Thank you for your desire to help us be better. Lord, thank you for your willingness to love us and to work with us, Lord, and let us take baby steps into serving you. And Lord, I just pray that as we continue through this series of Satan Hates Church180, that we continue to not dwell on the negative, not dwell on the dark forces, not dwell on Satan, Lord, but to dwell on how we can better serve you through our church and our efforts, Lord. Grow us closer to you. I ask this in your name. Amen.